If you would like to know why Nessarose is the way she is and why she interacts with Elphaba the way that she does, buckle up because I am about to tell you. If you have listened or watched my YouTube video explaining Elphaba's pathology and kind of what happened in her childhood, this piggybacks off of that a little bit. Essentially, what we know is that Elphaba was scapegoated very much as a child, and she was severely parentified. On the flip side of that, we have Nessarose participating in the scapegoating that takes place to Elphaba. Why she does this is because she is the younger sibling, which means she grew up being taught to behave this way around Elphaba. This was how she was supposed to treat her sister. This is what her father showed her behavior-wise, as well as what the community showed her. For those who don't know, children learn through mirroring adults. We as humans have what's called mirror neurons, and it's how we pick up on language, social cues, behavior, things like that. So from a very, very, very early age, she is watching her father and observing how he is treating Elphaba, and as well as how the Munchkin community is treating Elphaba. This kind of constructs her perception of her own sister and enables her to see Elphaba through the eyes of other people, compared to developing her own perception of her sister. So this is why Nessa frequently distances herself from Elphaba, because this is the behavior that is expected of her, and why she doesn't necessarily go out of her way to stick up for Elphaba. Despite this, we see her and Shiz not really participate in the bullying, and part of that's because there is an inherent affection and love there because Elphaba is her sister. We have a very biological need to kind of belong to our families, even if we aren't necessarily super fond of them. Basically, if you're going to go no contact with somebody, it takes a lot, that type of thing. You really want the relationship with your family, and it takes a lot to kind of cut that off. So that's partially why we don't see Nessa openly engage just in this straight up bullying behavior. However, we also don't really see her protect or defend her sister. This changes later in Wicked for Good when we see her blame Elphaba for what happened to Bok. Nessa engages in the scapegoating that her father did as a defense mechanism, which if you listen to the podcast or the video on Elphaba, you would know that scapegoating is very much a defense mechanism for the person who is doing the scapegoating. The other thing that we have to recognize about Nessa is she does not take rejection well, because in comparison to Elphaba, she's never been rejected. She is very clearly the golden child in the Throp family, so she's gotten basically everything that she wants. In a weird way, she kind of parallels Glinda in that regard. She comes from a more official family, a better, well-off family, and she typically gets what she wants. Because of that, she can't handle the idea that Bok would have been lying to her or doesn't want a relationship with her, and she doesn't really know what to do with that because she's never had to deal with that type of rejection before. And it's very likely that within the Munchkin community, she was very well liked, especially because Mr. Throp is the governor, and compared to Elphaba, she seems like the better option. So yeah, Nessa's a really shitty person as far as character purposes go, but with the way that the plot is written and the childhood that was written for her, she doesn't really have much of an option to be really anything else. Granted, she could have changed her behavior later in Wicked for Good instead of pointing the finger at Elphaba, but instead she makes the decision to eventually become part of the problem and really encourages the narrative against her sister, which isn't that uncommon in these types of relationships. And the unfortunate thing is that deep down inside, Elphaba still cares about Nessa. That's why she shows up in the first place. It's why she shows up after the house gets dropped on Nessa. Because again, there is that innate biological love and bond between siblings, even though you have been wronged by your sibling.